is independent of the uniform velocities of the frame. In other words, the law of physics must have the same form in every inertial frame. The corollary is that the speed.
Dun, dun, dun. What's up, peeps? We're back for another week 38, I believe. And I gotta say, is this whole eating food thing, as compared to not eating food during the long summer diet, is amazing. Because getting to the gym and do my work, and I feel like I have enough energy. It's like, wow, who would have thought that? That's amazing. It was a good week of lifting. I'm liking this 6 days a week schedule, and the very slow progression of the weights. It seems to be going well, and not running into sets that are too difficult to actually finish. So it's kind of like keep building momentum and getting better and better slowly but surely. Now, the one thing to note about the things I just said is that the deadlift weights are still very low, and perhaps some of the reason I feel so peppy is that I'm not deadlifting myself to oblivion, as I expect I will be when I'm actually trying to build up to a maximum. But whatever, we're actually going to do things in a slightly different order this week. We're going to skip now to the reverse diet update. The scale this week actually showed a body weight gain of more than half a pound. So that means next week's target macros and calories are going to be the same as this week's, because that's the rule. It's over half a pound gain, no change in the calories. Now, I have good reason to suspect that the scale was actually giving me odd readings, because I think it weighs heavier when the temperature in the house is colder. And that's fine, because it's kind of like changing the clocks. When you're going from cold to hot, you get the benefit because it's starting to weigh you lighter. It's kind of like the fall clock change is awesome, after you lose the hour in the spring, right? So that's the scoop with that. And we're going to talk about why the protein and carbs don't match. I think I mentioned last week that I wanted to make that the topic of this week's video, so here goes. So the deal with protein as it pertains to strength training and bodybuilding, etc., is that obviously everybody knows it's used for muscle repair and maintenance, and also building of new muscle. But I think something that's been talked about a lot in terms of how you should manage your protein is actually incorrect. There's some new research out that seems to debunk it. The old way was to say, how many grams of protein do you need to eat or consume in one day, right? So it'd be like, you hear things like a gram per pound of body weight, or something based on your kilograms of body weight, but of some amount to take in over your entire day. The difference is, pause briefly while we check out how the arms look in the tank top with the deadlifts. Pretty decent. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. Anyway, the newer research shows that protein intake is actually managed more on a meal-by-meal basis. So it's either you hit the one meal requirements for protein to basically build new muscle, or you don't, and it's kind of just turned into carbohydrate, or if that's not ended up being used, it ends up being turned to fat from there. So the deal is, protein is built of amino acids, and you may have heard the issue that vegetarians have, where they have to combine rice and beans. The reason is that certain amino acids are in short supply in the beans that are made up for in the rice, and the opposite is also true. There's something in the rice that is short, but is made up for in the beans. So it's those same things that we're talking about here. Now, the one of interest for us with strength training is called leucine, and the basic gist of the research that I've seen is that you need to eat about a 3-gram total of leucine in each meal in order to trigger the building of new muscle. And like I mentioned, if you don't meet the threshold, the protein that you eat will probably end up being turned into a different form of energy, most likely glucose first, and then if that's not used, then to fat. So now the trick is that different sources of protein have different contents of leucine, and so you need to actually do a little math in order to figure out how much leucine you're actually getting out of your food. The basic gist is that meat, beef, chicken, turkey, pork, are all approximately 8% leucine. So if you eat a meal that had, like, say you're eating chicken, right, and you eat 10 grams of it, 8% of that is going to be leucine. Pause once again for another arm shot while deadlifting in the tank top. I had to take advantage of this, because it's about to be like, 100 below in here, and I probably won't be able to do this for like 6 months, right? You now return to your regular scheduled program. So anyway, like 0.8 grams of the 10 grams of protein that you got in your chicken is the leucine, and so you count that towards your towards your 3 gram threshold. The best things for leucine content is actually dairy. Things like cheese and milk are between 9 and 10%, and if you actually have whey protein isolate, like in the powders, that's like 12%. So you only need to consume, like, 26 grams, I think, will get you 3 grams of leucine if it's the whey protein isolate. So that's basically the gist of what you need to do. And as you can see, if you eat different things, it's going to be a different total amount of protein that you take in order to reach your 3 gram threshold of leucine. And so after all that, basically my plan is to get about 3 or 4 doses of leucine in a day. And depending on what I actually eat, it varies on how much total protein I eat, based on the leucine content. So if I have, say, a lot of meat, one day, it's going to be a total amount of protein that's higher than a day where I have more dairy. So if I have like beef and chicken for most of the day one day as my 2 or 3 meals, that's going to be a higher amount of protein than on days where I have cheese or more, protein shakes than usual. Normally I just have one. So that is how I do my protein, and when the protein has been set for the day, I will set carbs to equal out whatever the intended calorie total is, and that is pretty much how I do things with the protein and carb requirements in my diet. So with that said, we are coming to the end of this video, and this is the last exercise of the week. Thursday's behind the neck press. Volume for this week went up a grand total of 5,000 pounds from last week, with most of the change being on shoulders, because the first week I just set a goal of 4 sets plus. So it was like 4 set minimum, and if I felt good, I would do more. This week I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do 6 sets of everything, because that seems to be going well. And indeed it went quite well. So with that, we'll see you guys next week. All right, take care. Bye.